started the recording. You can start the meeting anytime you want.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call to order this work session of the Anchorage Assembly. This is a confirmation hearing for Daniel Zipay, Solid Waste Services Director. It is Thursday, October 21, and we are noticed from 2:30 to 3:30 today. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
I'm sorry. Suzanne LaFrance.
Here.
Christopher Constant.
Here.
Jamie Allard.
Here.
Forrest Dunbar.
Here.
Crystal Kennedy.
Here.
Felix Rivera.
Present.
Cameron Perez Verdia.
Here.
Keith Peterson.
Present.
Austin Quinn Davidson. John Weddleton.
Here.
And Meg Zalatel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I want to note for folks that the documents are available for this work session on muni.org. And if you go to the Assembly page and click on Assembly Work Sessions, you can scroll down. The format for this confirmation we'll start with a brief 5-minute intro by Mr. Chibaka, the Chief Human Resources Officer for the municipality, followed by a brief 5-minute intro of himself by Mr. Zipay, and then we'll have questions from Assembly members. And we'll start with Ms. Allard first when we go to that, because I understand she won't be able to stay for the full time for the meeting. And before we begin, I just want to go over a couple things here. I want to call attention to Charter Section 5.02, Powers of the Mayor, which states the mayor shall appoint all heads of municipal departments subject to confirmation by the Assembly on the basis of professional qualifications. Members are urged to keep in mind that we want to be careful concerning the reputations of nominees. Questions should be limited to education and work experience. Please be aware of any sensitive personnel issues that may not be legally permissible for discussion in a public forum. If members have relevant questions concerning personal characteristics or habits that they believe are germane to the question of the candidate's professional qualifications, we can consult with legal counsel to consider holding a special meeting and executive session on a later date, or offering the nominee the option to waive the executive session. So now we will go to Mr. Chibaka for an introduction. Mr. Chibaka, welcome.
Thank you, Chair LaFrance. It's nice to see you. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce Dan Zipay. Dan is a near lifelong Alaskan with the grit, drive, experience, and creative thinking that we really need to lead our municipal solid waste services department. Dan arrived in Alaska in the spring of 1958 when his father accepted a position as the flight engineer for Revolution Airways. He ultimately made his home here, he met his wife here, and he raised his family here, all while building successful construction and waste hauling businesses from the ground up. In many ways, I believe Dan is the embodiment of Alaska's entrepreneurial and pioneering spirit. He's a wonderful example of the values of hard work and civic mindedness that we all admire. And as a 5-time Iron Dog champion and then Iron Dog Hall of Fame inductee, he's a living page of Alaskan history. In 1979, Dan started Alaska Pro Truck, an aggregate hauling outfit whose trucks you may still recognize on the road today, fulfilling municipal, state, and federal contracts around the community. In 1996, he began Alaska Waste Transfer as a private waste company to offer commercial services to his fellow residents. Dan's 2 decades of experience in management and the waste hauling industry will help lead our city to the better future we all want for Anchorage and its citizens. Mayor Bronson is proud to have nominated Dan to serve as our municipality's next executive director of solid waste services and is grateful for your consideration of his nominee. Thank you for this opportunity, Chair LaFrance, and I hope that was brevity and brilliance for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chewbacca. It was indeed. We will now go to Mr. Zipay, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
All right, I do. I just want to thank you and thank for all the you guys on the assembly too, and I appreciate all that. But anyway, hello, honorable members of the assembly. Thank you for your time today. As you know, I was appointed by the mayor to be the director of solid waste services, and I hope today Nikki did an excellent job of doing an intro, so mine's going to be rather short. But I hope I can answer all your questions you have for me today, and we can move on to the next stage here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Zipay. We'll go ahead and then start with member questions, and we'll go first to Ms. Al.
Thank you, Chair LaFrance. I appreciate you allowing me to go first. Mr. Zipay, I have two questions, and they're a little bit loaded, but I think that we should just kind of hit these right out of the chute. So I'm a little bit concerned about a conflict of interest with another waste company. And I was hoping that you could possibly put my mind at ease and hit on this conflict of interest that could be perceived here.
Okay, approximately 5 years ago, my daughter wanted to start a waste company. I started mine in 1996 or 97, Alaska Waste Transfer. I ran it for 11 years and sold out to a private company here, which they sold out to Waste Connections, and they still use the name Alaska Waste. She approached me, wanted to know if I wanted to start a waste business, and I told her that I didn't actually want to start a waste business, but if she did, I would help. I'd get her in the right direction, get some help for her, get the right, we had RCA help, some funding, pushed her towards some bankers that I'd used before, and then some professional help to get it going. And then we had our corporation papers set. It was myself, her, of course, she was the president. I was the secretary or treasurer, if I remember right, and my wife was on there too. She was 75% owner. I was 12.5. My wife was 12.5. And in July, before I even know this job was coming along, I asked her, there were some other issues that came up with my corporation, my trucking company, that I wanted to get clear for corporation. And then, so she started the process of having me removed. I think it ended up in January or July of 2021. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a call from Amy, asked if I wanted to interview for the solid waste director's position. The conflict of interest, the conflict of interest, I think that is looked at is my ownership in that, and if there's anything as director that I could do to help her further her company from my position. I met with Dee and Lisa from the ethics board, talked to them for about an hour the first time I came in. I actually went to the ethics board. I don't know the determination of the status of what's going on there except from Dee, and she says they haven't had a meeting yet to come up with that determination, but I think she might have some help on that for me on where that's at. And I was cleared, talked to him again yesterday about a couple things, and as far as I know, the conflicts have been cleared up.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Madam Chair, can I just do my last question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zipay, can you talk to me a little bit? I'm a little bit concerned. Could you talk to me a little bit about your stand on privatization, please?
My thoughts on privatization, as I come from a private, my business has all been private. When I met for the mayor for the first time in my interview, about 30-second conversation on privatization, I told him this, I work at the direction of the mayor, and so whichever way he goes or wants to go, I kind of got to follow his lead or try to talk him out of what I think is right or wrong. I don't think it's time to privatize right now, and the reason I say that is because this SWS is it's a good performing company. The disposal side, of course, is better because it's the landfill and the transfer station. And the collection side is holding its own. I'm going to make some improvements to get it on more solid ground. And I think that, you know, in the right direction, it's a profitable asset to the muni. And, you know, I'm not here to just dismantle or privatize. I'm here to prioritize and stabilize. And then as our mission as a utility. And then I want to get it in a spot, the utility in a financial position. So no administration right now or future administrations are going to want to talk about privatizing or selling. But I don't think that's the right direction right now to go. Not with the things we have going on.
So prioritize and stabilize. I like that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. And I believe Ms. Ennis is standing by to address the question concerning ethics.
Yes, I am. I just wanted to confirm what Mr. Zipay said. He came before the full board for over an hour. We explored a lot of the ownership interests, both past and present businesses, and then also talked about the privatization twice with both Ms. Lisa Toussaint, the administrative hearing officer at Second Ethics Board attorney, and myself. We are headed toward the final conclusion very strongly that any potential conflicts are manageable. The board wasn't able to meet yesterday simply because of physical quorum requirements. So I think it's a go.
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Ms. Allard, did you have any follow-up?
No, thank you, Ms. Ennis. I appreciate it. No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Allard and Ms. Ennis. We'll go ahead and move through the queue. I have Mr. Weddleton next and then Mr. Dunbar. Mr. Weddleton?
Well, thanks. So I'm going to, follow a little bit on Ms. Allard's lines. Excuse me. So, I mean, you talk about the conflict of interest with Northern Waste potentially, but also you do some trucking and you have some contracts with the municipality. And I think there might be some restrictions there. So Mr. Zipay, if you have information on that, and then D, maybe discuss, are there any restrictions on somebody works in the municipality having contracts with the municipality? And then also on kind of the broader issue is what kinds of things would be done to create it like a firewall between Mr. Zipay and perhaps Alaska Trucking in cases where they have contracts or with Northern Waste? Thanks.
So is that to me first or to Mr. Zipay?
I guess you get to pick, but he's got his video on, so I guess he gets to go first.
Yeah, I'll answer that. We talked about that too, John, with D and the board also. I have in previous years had contracts with the city, but I haven't had any contracts with them. I think the last one I had was the snow haul for 5 years or 6 years for the city. And then I haven't had any other contracts that I have actually performed the contract as mine. I've hauled other things through other contractors to city and state jobs, and I don't know if that's a conflict or not. My truck's working through someone else. A couple of my kids are running my trucking company right now while I'm gone, and I don't know. She didn't find a conflict with that. So.
Through the chair, this is Dee. Should I respond?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Ennis.
Yeah, we did discuss some of that at length, and I think we primarily were giving Mrs. Zipay some of the parameters of if there's a contract that comes up into the future, what you can and cannot do, what you must disclose. So we didn't see current problems, but certainly there could be overlap into the future. I think it will be a fairly, couple-page thoughtful opinion from the board. And just, again, side rails for the future.
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Mr. Weddleton, do you have any follow-up?
No, I've got another one for later if you want to just work through the queue.
Okay, sure, we can come back to you. Thank you, Mr. Weddleton. Mr. Dunbar?
Thank you, Ms. LaFrance. And I apologize if this sounds like something of a, variations on a theme, but I think this is sort of the primary issue that many of us want to talk about. For assembly members, and I assume for executive administration officials as well, it doesn't really matter if you personally own a stake in a company, if one of your family members does, right? It's the conflict of interest if you have a spouse or a child does exist. And so you have to build the firewalls that Mr. Welton described. And in the case of assembly members, it means we don't vote on things, typically. And I guess, so a couple questions for you, Mr. Zipay. First, can you give me a sense of what exactly Northern Waste does so we can understand where it might be working with, or, I understand that waste companies don't sort of compete with each other in sort of a traditional sense in certain cases because of the RCA and that kind of stuff, but where it might be in sort of competition with the city. And then, if Solid Waste Services puts out an RFP or something like that, asks for a contractor, in what cases would Northern Waste potentially bid on something, or would they not? So can you lay that out for me? Sort of what does Northern Waste do, and when exactly would they be related to the activities of Solid Waste Services?
Okay, to clarify, it's not Northern Waste, it's actually Denali Disposal that Bernadette owns. So,
apologies.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But anyway, they're commercial. She's a commercial company that picks up dumpsters and roll off. She doesn't do residential. She's a small 2 or 3 truck operation, couple employees. And in my knowledge, in the 30, 35, 40 years I've been here, I don't think Solid Waste Services has ever put out a contract to hire any private company to do anything. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. And in the future, I don't see Solid Waste Services putting any ITBs out on the street as it is. And if there is an ITB, that has to be signed off on the assembly and the mayor himself, or he would have to sign off on it. But no, I don't think there's any conflict that's going to has been in the past or theoretically in the future.
So that makes sense to me intuitively on the collection side. On the disposal side, is there any because presumably her company uses the landfill, right? Is there any potential problem there that you foresee?
Forrest, I don't see what I could do for a certain company that any other company wouldn't get the same privilege of doing. But on the landfill side or the transfer station side, no, I don't think there's a conflict of interest there that would involve me anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to that ethics memo. And, in the case of assembly members, it's usually pretty straightforward. We step out of the room. We don't vote on an item. But in your case, I mean, you're the executive director. You're going to be presumably signing off on things. And so I can imagine there might be circumstances where it's a little more difficult to sort of get you out of the line of decision making. But I guess I'll wait to see that memo. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That would be something that the ethics committee can clear up, and then if there is an issue with some kind of conflict, we might have to work it out.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Thank you, Mr. Zipay. Mr. Perez Verdia had raised a question in the chat, and Mr. Perez Verdia, would you go ahead and raise your question to the group? I know that Ms. Ennis also replied in the chat. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was on the timing of the memo from the Ethics Committee. I know that the vote on this confirmation is coming up soon. And my question is, will we be able to get that memo, the response from the Ethics Committee, prior to the vote that we will take on this confirmation? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Perez Verdia. And Ms. Ennis, if you'd go ahead and address Mr. Perez Verdia's question.
Yes, I doubt it because we have been unable to get a physical quorum together, even though we're ready to finalize that memo. And I doubt that we'll be able to get it before, I believe it's next Wednesday, is the confirmation hearing. You're at that same hearing, I believe, or meeting, looking at the telephonic boards and commissions ordinance as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Mr. Perez Verdia, did you have any follow-up?
No, I don't. Well, no, I don't. I'll put myself back in the queue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you, Mr. Perez Verdia.
Madam Chair, may I just add one comment?
Sure,
the board
go ahead, Dennis.
The board is more than willing to do a special meeting, assuming that the telephonic ordinance can pass or does pass. They're more than willing to do a special meeting to get this done in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Next, we'll go to Mr. Constant, then Ms. Zalatel. Mr. Constant?
Thank you, Mr. Zipay. You know, I did not have a chance to meet with you before because I had been out of town. And so I'm going to ask that we take the time over the next several days, maybe Monday or Tuesday, sit down for half an hour and have a conversation. Separate from that, I just wanted to clarify, the body has been pretty interesting on the question of conflicts. Mr. Dunbar suggested that when there's a child, they aren't allowed to vote. But in fact, the only experience that I have with this question was when a member had a parent with a liquor license. And in fact, the body forced them to vote on the question. And so the question of conflicts is not clear, it's gray. And I think that's the only challenge that you face is the question of how is this all going to be worked out? And it's hard to make a call without seeing the ethics board's review, but otherwise it seems to me that you bring plenty of qualifications. And so with that, I'll just say I would like us to find a time before Wednesday to spend a half an hour.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciated the time I got to spend with you and chat with you the other day, and then your answering questions and reporting out today during Enterprise and Utilities Oversight. I recall some conversation about recycling and needing to expand recycling services, and that we would possibly, as solid waste services, look to contract out to do such expansion. If I recall incorrectly, please let me know. But I just wanted to know if any of your past companies or anyone that's related to you has any recycling in particular, if that's something that we could be looking at in the future.
I think the only recycling that Denali Disposal does is cardboard. I think she has a small cardboard route, and that's the only recycling that she does right now because of the truck she owns. They're not a residential truck. They can't pick up the small 64-gallon containers, so she's limited to doing cardboard only. And I think a mixed paper route too. She does some kind of mixed paper route. That's all I know of.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Thank you, Mr. Zipay. Next, we'll go to Mr. Perez Verdia, then Mr. Dunbar. Mr. Perez Verdia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As others have said, Dan, thanks for the time spending sitting down with me and talking. I enjoyed our conversation. Just a couple of pieces I'd like you to speak about. You know, my assumption is whenever we have someone new coming into a leadership position like this, it will likely be different from what we've seen in the past. So maybe just three questions for you. What can we expect that's going to be different from what we've seen in the past? What are a couple of your priorities that we can expect to see focus on in the near future? And then the third question, because of your extensive background and experience, why do you want to do this? It doesn't seem like a position you need to do. So I'm curious, and I'm sure others are, why you would want to take on a position like this at your stage in your career in terms of your amount of experience. So if you could expose what's going to be different, what a couple of priorities, and then why do you want to do this? Thanks.
Different will just be a different style of management. I think that I'm an equipment guy, so there's some issues here that I think I need to take care of equipment wise. I don't think we're taking the full longevity of our vehicles. I think we're buying some too soon. And the ones we're getting rid of look like they might be able to use another year or two. And that bothers me because those trucks are $350,000 a piece. And I think we might be able to operate a little bit longer on those vehicles. That's the biggest thing. And then our overtime's a little out of control right now. And I've delved into that. I can see there's a few problems that we need to take care of overtime wise. And then another thing is I got a bucket of problems here. I got dumped in my lap. One was the budget. I was here for one day and did the budget with my CFO and our operations manager. So there might be some things that I need to fix up there that I didn't get a good enough look at. And then the other thing is we have a leachate problem at the landfill. We're pumping out, I think last week we pumped out 850,000 gallons at 6 cents a gallon. And I know we're working on that problem right now, but we need to get it resolved sooner than later. And that's a big priority. We're about $300,000 a month is going out the door each month to get rid of our leachate. So we have some deep injection wells we're looking at and some new style evaporators, which I'd rather do the deep injection well because it gets rid of the problem right on site. So we don't have to truck anything away. And then the evaporators will be, they work, but there's still a sludge that needs to be hauled off. So we're hoping we've had a meeting with the EPA already last week and we're gonna move forward on that. It's gonna be expensive to do, but it's gonna be worth the money because of the leachate problem. And then we have a ADC problem at the landfill also with some NOVs on odor, and the fines have gotten out of control. So I met with the AG last week, and hopefully we're going to sit down with the ADC Commissioner Rooney and Mr. Taylor again to see if we can hammer this thing out and get that taken care of. So if it's off my plate, that's a big kind of a monkey on my shoulder right now. And then the biggest thing in the future is waste energy. Just keep working on that. It's we're going to need that down the road because of the PFAS that's coming from EPA and stuff. And I think that's something that the Assembly has already worked on and talked about. And I just want to further that conversation and see if we can get that going. There you go.
And why do you want to do this?
Why do I want to do it? It's just I got asked to do it, and Amy gave me a call, and I didn't think I'd even have a chance to do it, but it kind of intrigued me, and it's I think I'm going to like it. It's something I think I should be able to do.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Perez Verdia, and thank you, Mr. Zipay. We'll go next to Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan, you had I had brought up a USDA grant on organics, and you sent me an email saying that you had found some info on that you wanted to talk about during this hearing. So if you wanted to do that now, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, we'll get that taken care of here. Okay, so I did some digging with my CFO, and I came up with our organics paperwork. And the grant that we were talking about, you're right, it's $90,000. And the $90,000 grant, it came into effect on 9/30/20, and it is over in 9/30/2020. It's a 2-year grant, and the money that's been spent already, out of the 90,000, 20,000 were for organics carts that we got, the pink carts, and then 69,500 of that went towards the Tetra Tech study, which I don't know if I explained that to you or not, but they're doing a study on the organics program to see how we can grow it, where we need to go, how much needs to be brought in. And we spent last year on the organics program, the revenue on the disposal side was $7,000, and the revenue on the collection side was $55,000. But the big bulk of the money that we lost on the disposal side was we paid out $82,860 in the disposal side. That was for labor. The recycling company that does the hauling of the compost out to Palmer and back, some printing stuff and miscellaneous insurance. We lost $82,000 on that one alone. And then on the collection side, the revenue was $55,000 between for our pickups. The labor was $72,000, printing, miscellaneous insurance was $1,400, and the vehicle cost was approximately $28,000. So we lost $46,000 on that one. So when my first day I got here, of course, I'm looking for cuts to make, and this just happened to be one of the ones that stood out to myself and my CFO. And it's something that we don't want to get rid of it. We just want to table it for a little while until we can find out where we can get the cost under control and figure out maybe another grant to help us with to offset the cost. And that's where I am on that. I talked to Susanna today and she kind of explained this to me. And of course, the organics probably we need to keep it. It's just we want for this, the study should be out by the end of November, the Tetra Tech study, and then we can go from there and see how we can fix this.
Okay. Yeah, well, I appreciate all that. And I'll just say from talking to some of my constituents that, the composting program is very popular. And, we've been trying to build it out in recent years. And it's interesting. So the federal government gave us $20,000 for the carts, and now we are not going to use those carts for at least a year. Are we worried at all? We have to repay any of that grant, or do you think we're good?
No, the grant has mostly been spent already. In fact, Susanna's told me that she thinks the whole grant has already been spent, and not only that, the $90,000 that they gave us, we had to make some matching funds to it, which were about $30,000, and we've already spent that also. So the grant has been used, and we don't want to take. We got to leave the carts with the customers right now, because we have they're out there, and it's not going to be tabled forever. It's just going to be tabled until we figure out how we're going to pay for it better.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Thank you, Mr. Zipay. Mr. Weddleton, you had some additional questions?
No, that's all right. I appreciate the conversation. Real good. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Weddleton. Next, Mr. Constant, and then Ms. Zelatel.
Thanks. What you just suggested about the pink carts, it's making me scratch my head a little bit. Effectively, we're telling people who just got their carts, who've been using them, hey, you need to keep these, but they're not going to serve any purpose. And so it seems to me like there's a disconnect, and what's going to probably happen is they'll end up in the landfill and so or returned. So at least we need to have a budget for collection of those to get them taken back, because people don't have, at least in my district, tons of room for trash cans. They get cited if their trash cans are out anywhere near the right of way. And so other than the time when it's appointed for collection. So I think there's a closing of the loop that probably needs to be addressed on the pink cans.
Chris, I don't think we start using the cans until May anyway. So we have some time to see how we're going to follow up on this, because it's not going away. It's just it's tabled for a little while, and it's something that does need to keep growing. That's in our facility that we're going to have here. We're definitely going to want organics. The organics, we definitely need to get it bigger for sure. We need to grow the stream of organics, because we paid. I think we took so much organics in. We made 1,000. I think we made 100 yards of material, and it cost us $128,000. So it's $128 a yard to produce that compost. So we need to do something to get the cost down.
No, I absolutely get that. I just believe, I know that there are people currently using the pink cans in my district, not sometime in the future. They're doing it right now, and those cans are going to be stuck with them. And so we just have to figure out how to close that loop, because there are going to be a number of people in these small lot configurations who are going to say, if it's doing no good, then you can't be here.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you. Yeah, we'll have to close that loop and then get this program back going again somehow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Thank you, Mr. Zipay. Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zipay, something you said when you're answering, I believe it was Mr. Dunbar's question, really caught my ear, and this was an easy cut to make or an easy way to save some money. And I would like to know your philosophy a little bit about solid waste services in terms of its budget. It is generally self-sustaining. The rates have been raised over the past several years to start to bring them back in line with the actual cost of doing business after not doing rate increases for quite a while, and as well as to support the financing of the central transfer station upgrade. I did not get the sense previously that there was a significant revenue concern or budget concern with regard to solid waste services. So if you could just share some thoughts on why you think you need to find areas to cut. Are there specific concerns you're trying to address, or is it simply just direction from the administration? Thank you.
If you dig into our budget, you'll see on the collection side that we're not, we're making our budget right now. Our P cards are just about probably another 2 weeks. We're not going to be able to use our P cards because our budget for operating is going to be down to zero. And I guess before I got here, when I came in, they told me that this year and next year are going to be tough years because of the new transfer station. A lot of money was going to there. And when I did the budget, of course, we cut 2.5% off of each utility. And that I don't want to say the organics was an easy cut. It's an important program. That looks like I need to get clear on how I can make that thing go forward. But to just cut the budget from anywhere, no, I don't like doing that.
Any follow-up, Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you. I was just digesting the answer for a second and having some thoughts. It's always rapid fire. I think that's it for now. I'm going to think on that one a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Thank you, Mr. Zipay. I'm just checking the chat for any members who want to ask questions, and I'm not seeing anyone else in the queue. Have I missed anybody? Mr. Perez Verdia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to follow up. So this is a moment where we all can get clear about the ethics committee and sort of the plan moving forward. I want to make sure I understand, is it going to be possible for that committee to have a special meeting and to get the information that they're going to provide to us prior to the vote? Can maybe Ms. Ennis can speak to that more specifically? And I guess my question is if we are not able to get that information prior to the vote, do we want to postpone the vote? So I mean, I want to move this forward. I don't want to delay it, but I also want to make sure that we're doing our job and receiving the information that we need to ensure that the vote is informed. So I'd just like to hear Ms. Ennis speak one more time and to give us a clear sense of sort of what we can expect moving forward and whether we need to do a change in our timeline based on the work of the Ethics Committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Ennis?
Yes, the Ethics Board would not have a written opinion by next Wednesday. And I believe that is when the confirmation hearing is set up. Am I correct on that? And the reason is we're having problems again getting the physical quorum. If that requirement is changed, I think we could have an opinion within a week.
And yes, Mr. Zipay's confirmation is on the agenda for the Wednesday, October 27 regular assembly meeting. It's item 10D1, 10 Delta 1. Mr. Perez Verdia, do you want to follow up?
No, I think we'll discuss it at that meeting and make a decision whether to sort of move on it at that point or not. But I would just say if there's anything, even if it's not a a finalized vote by that group, there's any information that we can receive from that body that would help us in the decision, that would be helpful. But no, I think we're just going to have to take it up at that meeting and make a decision then, and people will vote the way that they vote. So thanks.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Ennis, go ahead.
I think there would be a draft opinion, and that could at least be circulated to the board for any objections. So it would be a draft opinion, but it would go 90% to what you want.
That would be great.
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Okay, I don't see any other assembly members in the queue. And again, I don't want to miss anybody. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Zipay? Okay, I'm just pausing to give folks time. I don't see anyone else in the queue, Mr. Zipay. And if you would like to go ahead and provide some comments to wrap up, you can do that now.
Okay, I'll do that. I'd like to talk to, let you know what's going on. It's a little bit of what's going on at Solid Waste Services with a couple things that were here before I was hired. And one of them is, I don't know if you guys know where we're at on the electric trucks. We have the previous director got a grant to purchase an electric side load truck for the 64 and 64 gallon cans. They're being built right now. I don't know exactly where they are in the build specs, in the production of them, but they are the chassis were delivered to the people that are doing the powertrain, and they should be here the first of the year. We have an electric box truck that's we've had for probably 2 or 3 months, at least probably 4 months, because before I got here. There was a few problems with it, but they sent an engineer up from Dana Spicer, the power people, and they got it working, and it's here in the shop now. We've been using it for cart deliveries. And then the other trucks are, like I say, they should be here in 3 to 4 months. And I just wanted to, I know there's some questions on those. Felix and I had a really good talk about electrifying. So if anybody has any questions about that, the pros and cons of electrification right now.
Thank you, Mr. Zipay. I don't see anyone in the queue with questions. Appreciate the update. I'm just pausing here to see. Okay, seeing no one else, I'll just note that, again, confirmation for Mr. Zipay is on the agenda for the October 27th Wednesday regular assembly meeting, item 10D1, 10 Delta 1. And seeing no further questions and no one else in the queue, thank you, Mr. Zipay, for your time today and for this conversation. And if there are no further questions, and I don't see any, we will go ahead and adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
See you all back at 3:40 for the next meeting, the confirmation hearing for the municipal traffic engineer. Thanks.